Greetings, friends. Average Yakuza attendee here, and would like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii right around the corner, coming out just next month. I thought it'd be a good time to go back and take a look at some of the older Yakuza games I never got to play. Before we start, I want to give a primer of my history with the series. Despite not having played every game, the Yakuza series is one that's very near and dear to my heart. As to avoid trauma dumping on my dead channel, let's just say that the games helped me through a particularly rough time. Since about 2022, I've played a couple of the games, namely the big ones like 0 and 7, but I have yet to see where the series started. So that's what I plan to do here today. I'm going to give you a rough rundown of the game and its systems, help you decide if you should play it. There will be minor spoilers for the first roughly 2 hours of the game, so with that warning said, sit down while I tell you the tale of a beautiful game called Yakuza Kiwami. The game opens on October 1st, 1995, as we see our lead, Kiryu Kazuma, standing over the bullet-riddled body of Sohei Dojima, patriarch of the Dojima family. We see Kiryu pick up a ring engraved with the name Yumi as cops rush the room. He turns around and is arrested. And we cut to the day before. We see Kiryu going on a routine collection with one of his subordinates, Shinji. We pay a visit to a few loan sharks who haven't been paying their share to the family. We have a short confrontation where they grovel and plead before launching an attack on us, which is where we get our first taste of one of the game's best systems, the combat. The bones that the series is built on, and arguably what it's most well known for. The games feature fast and responsive beat 'em up gameplay, with Kiryu taking on crowds of thugs by himself. It features a heavy emphasis on environmental interaction through the use of heat moves, which are context specific cinematic attacks, and using everyday items as weapons. Let me say, you haven't lived until you've punched someone into a wall with a bicycle. The game features 4 distinct fighting styles, each with their own strengths and drawbacks. Brawler style is the classic put your dukes up and beat the shit out of each other style, focusing on knockdowns, heavy punches, and kicks. Next, rush style, emulating all those bad action movies you grew up watching. You move faster than the eye can process and punch just as fast. The rush style focuses on dodging and quick combos with stunning finishers. And next up is my personal favorite, beast style. When you break out the beast style, people are in for a bad time. A fighting style based solely on grappling and using environmental weapons, you turn into an absolute Beyblade of destruction, throwing traffic cones and breaking people's backs on telephone poles. Last, and last but not least, Dragon Style. Dragon Style is Kiryu's classic fighting style, added in the Kiwami remake after featuring in Yakuza 0. It's an amalgam of Kiryu's best fighting techniques from 3 through 6 before the style system was introduced. Dragon Style gets a particular spotlight in this game. Bosses will go into a rejuvenation state, in which you need to switch to the Dragon Style and do a context specific heat action as a cinematic finisher for the fight. They do this when you get them to, roughly like 25% health, I want to say. This game also goes kind of the Metroid route, starting you off at full strength and weakening you after the first chapter, which we'll explain more later. After we finish wiping the floor with the loan sharks, we collect the money and go on our way, splitting off with Shinji and making our way to the bar Serena, where we meet most of our main cast. A brief introduction into our cast. Our lead, Kiryu Kazuma, is to put it simply, a fucking legend. The Dragon of Dojima, he's not one to fuck around with. A legendary Yakuza and one of the standing members of the Tojo clan, he's our protagonist for roughly 8 games and counting. Having never played Kiwami 1 before, it's interesting seeing Kiryu at what some would argue is his peak. After only seeing him as a fresh-faced Yakuza figuring things out in 0 to a matured orphanage owner in 3, it's an interesting step in his journey to take. And next up is my personal favorite character in the series, Mr. Goro Majima. Now, I'll keep this brief because, to put it bluntly, I could make an entire video just about Majima and how much I love his character. As of now, he's the patriarch of the Majima family, and as much as I hate this comparison, he's kind of the Joker to Kiryu's Batman. Polar opposite to the comic like to Kiryu, Majima is an unpredictable madman who could be laughing with you one moment and killing you the next. For those who have played 0, though, you would know that this is just an act. In reality, he's just as caring as the next person. I love how this is shown in Kiwami through the Majima Everywhere system, where, Majima, thinking that Kiryu's kind of lost his edge in prison, repeatedly fucking jumps Kiryu so he can remember how to fight. It's fucking hilarious and I won't hear otherwise. Next up for major players, we got Akira Nishiki, Kiryu's oath brother, and a character very close to the core of our story. I won't say too much on him now as to avoid spoilers, but he becomes very relevant later on. And last but not least, we have Yumi, third child from the orphanage with Nishiki and Kiryu, and a close friend of both. Going back to our story, we find out that it's Yumi's birthday, and Kiryu's fresh out of gifts. He makes a mad dash across town in search of a ring that Reina, the owner of Serena, recommended. Going to the jewelry shop, we purchase the ring for about 120,000 yen and make our way back to the bar. Tragedy strikes though, and our hero is pickpocketed on his way, starting another chase across town as he meets various victims of our slippery thief before finally cornering him in an alley. A scuffle ensues, and we learn that he pawned the ring to a local pawn shop. Upon our arrival, the greedy old bastard who owns the pawn shop doesn't believe the random sweaty Yakuza who says the ring is his, so we have to find a way to make some money and fast. To our luck, we run into Shinji, almost immediately, who gives us the money we need under the idea that Kiryu is going to a soap land. We arrive back at the pawn shop and find that the owner has now jacked up the price on us, asking for 150k. Feeling like a shitty sitcom, we once again go out in search of some scratch, running into Shinji, yet again, who, thinking we fell deeply in love, gives us the extra 30k we need. So after all this, we go back to the pawn shop to find out the owner finally came around to our story, reading the engraving on the ring and putting it aside as to not sell stolen goods. So, ring in hand, we make our way back to Serena and celebrate Yumi's birthday. Now, before I continue on with the story of the game, I have two more segments I want to hit. First off, I would like to talk about the general gameplay outside of combat. The Yakuza series follows a general style of third person adventuring that features long cutscenes, story heavy intros, and fast, fluid combat. While your options for movement are limited to just running and walking, it doesn't stop Kamurocho from feeling like a living, breathing city with things to find around every corner. Whether that's a stand selling takoyaki or an old man challenging you to a game of shogi in an alley, and these alleys are ones you'll come to know well. A unique draw to this series is their insistence on using the same district of Japan and adding to it every game, with the exceptions, of course, like Okinawa and Yakuza 3. Starting with Zero, we get to see Kamurocho slowly build up into a pop culture paradise and a hotbed for criminal activity. Speaking of criminal activity, I'd like to segue into the side content. This is the bread and butter of this series. Side content is, in my opinion, what elevates the series from your basic crime drama into something special. See, the Yakuza games follow a very specific formula. Your main story quests and cutscenes are all really serious and borderline of drama, but the minute you get into the side content, things get really goofy. And a lot of these have pretty happy endings. Kiryu acting like a stranger from a folktale, showing up to do something good, and then disappearing into the neon night. More often than not, though, these will end in confrontation, which is where you get to flex your combat skills. Now, back to the story. Today is October 1st, 1995, and it's the morning that we know Sohei gets murdered. And we make our way to the Cosmo family office to drop off the money that we got from the loan sharks. We make it there without incident and have a meeting with Shintaro Kazuma, Kiryu's adopted father and the man who ran the orphanage in which Kiryu, Nishiki, and Yumi all met. Shortly after, though, our meeting is interrupted by a phone call from Shinji, who, panicked, informs us that Dojima has kidnapped Yumi. Getting the nod from Kazuma, Kiryu rushes to the Dojima family office to find Dojima laying dead on the ground, riddled with bullets as Nishiki leans over him and Yumi cries in the corner. Getting more context for our opening scene, we now know that Kiryu took the fall for Nishiki. He tells Kiryu how Dojima tried to force himself on her, and he acted without thinking. Sending them away, Kiryu faces the police and takes the blame for his brother's crime. We see scenes of interrogation and eventual imprisonment and life in prison. To give my final thoughts, I think that yes, you should play Yakuza Kiwami. It's a fascinatingly rich game that showcases, while a fictional version of Japanese culture, a lively one nonetheless, with amazing combat and a compelling story that I can't think of a reason as to why someone shouldn't play this game. I've been Tendi, and with that, I hope you enjoyed the review.